these things. And I'm excited. I'm Dr. Judy Butler. I'm the founder and the creator of the Guardian's Gift. I have brought together this summit, and my hope, my passion is that I will be able to help 1,000,000 people, 1,000,000 families pre-plan and organize and talk about, have conversations around the second half and the end of life and get everything all prepared for their families. This comes out of a passion because of having to deal with these kinds of things with my dad. My father died in 2018, and as a result of, I guess, government red tape of dealing with attorneys and insurance and Department of Social Services and nursing homes and all those things, I was totally overwhelmed. I was totally unorganized. I thought my parents had everything together. They thought they had everything together. My mother said, those documents are in the top drawer of the chest of drawers. And so I went in there and looked, and there was a whole bunch of stuff in that top drawer. But having to go through it and sort it, and even though they had their cemetery plots, they had their headstones already in place, I still had to figure it all out. I still had to sort it. I still had to go through it. Still had to figure out what went where and if this was current or not, or, mom changed her will, and then I had to figure all that out. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. I want people to have a way, a place that they can go, a book they can go to, and it's all there. It's all ready for them. So I created that, and I work with senior adults. I've been working with senior adults for over 15 years as a pastor in church, pastor for senior adults there, and I love my senior adults. But the Guardian's Gift is not just about that. It's about working with families. It's to help heal families, because so many times, I was just talking to somebody a few minutes ago, sometimes families butt heads and they argue about things. And I know for myself, it's really easy to fall into the martyr role. I can do it. I'll take care of it. That was sort of the mantle that I wore. I had to figure out that I was getting worn out. I needed some help, but asking for help is hard for people. I figured out that I needed to talk to my brother. He was like, well, sure, I'll be glad to help. Just tell me what to do. I was like, all I had to do was ask. Understand that sometimes it's simply a matter of just asking. Now, today we have the honor and the joy of having a long-term care specialist. Long-term care insurance is something that I also grappled with, but today David Haynes is going to talk to us about long-term care. David is from Greensboro. He has been doing this type of work for over 28 years. Before that, he was in the senior home health care industry for 6 years. So he's got some expertise around this subject. He served on numerous boards over the years, and he's been involved in a lot of charity work. David and his wife, Amy, they've been married for 39 years, and they're both UNCG alums. David is a past recipient of the annual To Those Who Care Award, presented by Greensboro's WFMY-TV, Channel 2, for a church ministry that he began in the year 2000, so 20 years ago. David enjoys golf, reading, sports, painting, and cake baking. Now, speaking of painting, you guys noticed the images that are hanging behind David. He started doing those about a year ago, and he's really talented. Do pay attention to those beautiful paintings. David has been nationally ranked long-distance runner in high school and college. David believes the keys to success are keeping God first, living by the golden rule, and doing something for others that is bigger than yourself. And that is what we're doing here today. David's topic is long-term care. Don't hope for the best, plan for it. So David, thank you.
Thank you, Judy, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. 3 words that families love to hear are, I love you. 3 words families do not want to hear, long-term care. Those are 3 words that can change a family forever. It can change you in an emotional way, a physical way, and very much so in a financial way. So what is long-term care? You can spend hours on the internet researching. Many of you know what it is because you've experienced it with a loved one or a family member. You know firsthand. You've walked the walk, so to speak. But let's make it simple. Today, we're not talking about a sales pitch. We're talking about consequences of not having a plan. Long-term care is not a place. It's an event that can happen to anyone at any time, at any age. It is a result of an accident or an illness that requires you to rely on care from others. So we could be talking about an automobile accident, we could be talking about a fall, we could be talking about a lot of your chronic illnesses such as your diabetes, there could be cancer involved, it could be neuromuscular, rheumatoid arthritis, high blood pressure, which could result into a lot of things, and the biggie, which is the number one claim in all long-term care policies, is cognitive impairment, dementia or Alzheimer's. If any of those, whether it be through an accident or an illness, occurs to someone and they need care provided from someone else, that is what we're talking about today. When you hear the words long-term care, most people think of the aged or the feeble, bed-bound or wheelchair-bound in a nursing facility. They are totally dependent on others to provide care for them. That is long-term care, but that's only a fourth of what most people see. Most care begins in the home. It begins unnoticed by neighbors and family and friends. Typically, if there's a partner or a spouse, they come in and provide the care. They kind of put a Band-Aid on that cut, so to speak. At some point, the care may get too much for that spouse to provide that care, and they make a phone call to a local agency to provide some type of professional paid care to come in a few hours a day, a few days a week. And then the big decision that has to come at some point, we need to move mom or dad to a facility setting where there's 24/7 care because it's in her best or his best interest to receive that care. Ladies and gentlemen, those are tough decisions that family members have to make, and they can be very expensive. Now, if you're in your 50s or 60s, many of you have already experienced a long-term care event already. Some of you are going through it right now as that adult son or daughter and that unpaid caregiver. If you're taking a few minutes out of your day right now to tune in this call and you are one of those caregivers, God bless you. You've got a lot on your hands. Don't give up. You're doing the right thing. But I think what everyone will agree is that it is very expensive for care. I'm asked all the time, where do the dollars come from to pay for the care? A couple ways. Savings. Most care is paid out of your checkbook, out of your retirement plan, and it can be depleted very, very quickly. There is an aid and attendance benefit through the Veterans Administration if that veteran meets certain financial requirements. It's not a gimme. Cash provided by a long-term care insurance policy is what pays for care. Health insurance and Medicare do not pay for long-term care, period. That is a misconception that a lot of families have, and they use that as a means of not planning. It's a rude awakening. Health insurance and Medicare does not pay for long-term care. Medicaid, what about Medicaid? It does in certain situations after a family or an individual has spent down a lot of their assets. How much does it cost? As of July 2020, Genworth Insurance Company posts a cost of care survey they conduct all over the country. For the cost of care in the triad area, for home care, to have a home care provider come in, you're looking at an average of $19 an hour. That's average. If someone has to move to an assisted living, the average cost of care for that stay is around $3,600 a month. That's average. And the average cost of full-skilled nursing is right around $8,300 a month. I say average because some cases will be less, some will be more. That has to be paid from somewhere, and typically it's paid out of cash. The long-term care insurance proceeds, the dollars that the policy generates, helps family members manage the care instead of providing it. Again, I say the long-term care event can have catastrophic financial consequences. As Judy indicated earlier, I was in the insurance industry for over 20 years. I got out for 10 years and did some other things. For 6 of those 10 years, I got in the senior home care industry. I was in and out of every nursing home, assisted living, every skilled, every rehab. I was in a lot of homes. I was talking to a lot of sons and daughters about care for their mom or dad. I saw it firsthand. I wore the boots on the ground for 6 years, and I saw long-term care play out. In 2015, in January, I decided to get back in the insurance industry and specialize in long-term care insurance and life insurance. That's all I do. That's my specialty. Seeing what I have seen for 6 years through the home care industry, coupled with the experience I had in the insurance industry, it just seemed to be a really good fit. I saw it play out every single day. So I've become what some people call a specialist. That's all I do. One thing I noticed during the time before I got back in the industry is I was talking to so many sons and daughters that were self-employed, owned their own company. And I'd say, do you realize that long-term care insurance premiums may be fully or partially tax deductible as a business expense? And most people would say, I didn't know that. Well, I'm telling you, it is. If that is you, this may be another perk, another reason for you to consider it. Think about it. For all of us on this call today, most of us do not need the benefit of a long-term care policy. We don't need the benefit today. We just need the coverage. The benefit will come later. Part of my suggestions to you is don't procrastinate obtaining coverage. We're a society that we want it now. When we buy a product, we want to use it today. That's not how long-term care insurance works. You're going to buy it today and you may not use it for many, many years, or you may not ever use it. You could die in your sleep and never have a claim. I'm going to throw out one statistic. This is powerful, and I'll repeat it. 80% of every individual over the age of 65 will have a long-term care event lasting at least 12 months before they die. 80% of every individual over the age of 65 will have a long-term care event lasting at least 12 months before they die. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a huge figure. That means that a lot of us watching this and tuned in right now are going to go through some type of long-term care event before we die. Now, I have the argument, folks out there that say, aren't most of the cost at end of life anyway? Yes, they are. There's some high cost as you get close to dying. So I ask you a question. If you don't have a policy, why not? Don't procrastinate it. Buy it when you're young and healthy. I met with a practice health administrator about 3 years ago. I thought she'd be a good prospect for long-term care insurance, being that she was in the health insurance industry. And she said, Dave, this sounds good, but I'll call you when I need it. That was her answer. I'll call you when I need it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's not going to happen. When she needs it, it's too late. Some of you bought a policy years ago. Some of you have parents, moms and dads, that might have bought a policy years ago. If that is you, or if that is them, if you're an adult son or daughter, you need to know, I'm telling you right now, you need to know what your mom or dad bought years ago. You need to plan now instead of reacting later. You see, they probably forgot what they bought. It's in force. They know it is, but they don't really know what it is. I'm holding up a sheet called my 14 questions. These are 14 questions that every family should ask about their long-term care insurance policy. Most of these questions, most people don't know what to ask. If you send me an email address, I will send you these questions. This is a great tool, ladies and gentlemen, to find out exactly what someone has before it's too late. In other words, we certainly need to plan. I'll hold up my email address if you can see that, david@haynesltc.com. You can write that down. Another thing I mentioned a few minutes ago was about the tax benefit of having a long-term care policy. I'm going to hold this sheet up for you as well, and I'm happy to email this to you. This is the 2020 rules. This is right off the IRS guide. This sheet shows how you can possibly deduct all or some of your long-term care insurance premiums. This is right out of the tax guide, and then this here are the 14 questions. If you would like that, please shoot me an email. I'll hold this up again. A little fact check. There's only 11 companies in North Carolina that are writing new long-term care insurance policies. Only 11. I'm licensed with almost all of them. Underwriting is getting more difficult. Obtaining a long-term care insurance policy is not just a jump shot. You have to apply and you have to be approved medically. You do have to prove to the insurance company that you're a good risk for them. Now, one thing that has really created a lot of attention right now is this COVID situation. We are in the middle of a catastrophic pandemic that we have never been through before, which means the insurance companies don't know the long-term effects of someone getting the coronavirus. What has happened in the last couple of weeks, I've talked to many underwriters for life insurance and long-term care carriers. They are delaying and deferring bringing someone for a new case if they've had the virus. And for life insurance, it could go up to a year before they want to consider you because they don't know what the virus is going to do to the body and how the body's going to react. So my point in that, if you've not contracted the coronavirus and you think that you should look into long-term care insurance or life insurance, then you probably should. If you wait, it could determine totally your future and if you're going to ever be able to get it in the future. When you think of long-term care, don't hope for the best, plan for it. If any of you would like to reach out to me privately, I'm happy to email you any of this information. We can have a private conversation, a sidebar conversation. I'll hold up my email address again, david@haynesltc.com. I'm happy to take your call and happy to help you in any way I can.
Thank you so much. Everybody, give David some love, put him some thanks in the chat box down there and say, how much we appreciate this, because what you had to say is so important. I just got my premium statement for me to pay my premium on my long-term care insurance yesterday, and I was like, I have to pay it again. Hearing you today, I'm glad it came. I'm glad I've got it. Actually, I bought mine the day I turned 60 years old on my 60th birthday. That was a recommendation from Dave Ramsey. I used to teach Financial Peace University, and Dave said one of the insurances that he actually recommended was long-term care. He said, when you turn 60, if you don't have any health issues, go get some long-term care. So, David, I really, really appreciate that. And the fact that David is offering you these questions to ask, that's wonderful. As part of the conference, as part of this summit, I also have a PDF that everyone who has registered, they will get a copy of this 14-page PDF, Closer to Closure. It's 12 actions for 12 conversations, and it's meant to spur you to think about the different things that you need to discuss with your family, the different options. It offers a couple of things there, but it sort of gives you a guideline. So David's giving you a guideline, and I'm giving you a guideline. These things are free to you. All you have to do is request it. Like I said, sometimes it's not easy to ask for help, but we're making it as easy as possible. Questions from Paula. She says she's had long-term insurance since she was 50. Best thing I ever did. Way to go, Paula. Alice wants to know, says she has a cancer insurance, AFLAC. Does that impact my need or ability to get long-term care insurance?
Great question. It does not. I'd recommend you keep that policy. This does not impact whether you want to get out and get a private long-term care insurance policy. Okay. It would pay in addition to.
David, do you have several companies? You said 11 companies that you're contracted with?
Well, there's 11 companies, traditional companies in North Carolina writing new long-term care insurance policies. I'm licensed with 8 of those 11. So I can pretty much run the gamut for what someone needs based on how we want to design a policy.
Long-term care policies, are they in every state in the United States?
Yes, every state does sell long-term care insurance. You buy it directly from whatever state you live in. If you move to another state, that policy will follow you. Each state has certain companies that they have appointed, and pricing is different based on where someone lives. And also, of course, their health is a big issue as well. Mm-hmm. But yes, you can purchase a long-term care policy in all 50 states. I'm actually licensed in 5 states.
What are those?
Virginia, North Carolina, of course, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida.
So, David, you can help somebody that's in Virginia that happens to be listening.
I sure can.
Question, I work in the senior living industry, and just a word of advice, you can never plan too much for your long-term care. Long-term care insurance is the best investment you could make for yourself and your family. Crystal, thank you for that. I appreciate the input there. I've got one, David. Is there a cutoff on the age? Is there a place where it becomes prohibitive?
Good question, and I'm asked that a lot. Yes, most companies will write up to age 79. It gets very expensive if someone wants to wait till age 79. But here's the challenge. A lot of time, it's not the price that's the issue, it's the person's health. They can afford it. And I've talked to a lot of people in their mid to late 70s that want long-term care insurance, and they can afford it. The problem is we can't get them insured because of so many other health issues that have built up over the years, a lot of medications they're taking. It's too much of a risk to the insurance company. With that said, the coronavirus has changed the underwriting for some companies at 72 and some at 75 now. They're afraid to go beyond 75. But 79 is pretty much the maximum age that you can obtain coverage, and as low as age 18. I've never written a policy on an 18 or even a 20 or a 30-year-old. We can go all the way down to age 18 if that's the case. That's an issue.
These things are so individual. It depends on the person. It depends on their health, their situation. Could you kind of give us a ballpark figure of what something like this might cost for people who are listening?
It's going to be at least $100 a month for just about any age. It is cheaper if you have a couple or two partners that go in together and get a policy because there's some discounts. Typically for a couple, you're going to be looking at a good $200 to $250 a month, probably minimum, to get a very good plan. And you're right, it's all based on age and health. That's going to determine the cost. But I'd say the minimum of $100, you need to just go ahead and earmark that's going to be the cost out of your monthly budget.
Considering $100 a month now for a while, or would you say $8,300 a month for?
$300 a month in the Tri-Dade area for a private room for a nursing home. That's the average.
That's the average.
And the assisted living in the Tri-Dade area is $3,600 a month. That's average. And then home care, which a lot of people are going to get for a few hours a day, a few days a week, you're looking at an average of $19 an hour for home care.
Well, David, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And thank you to everybody who's been part of this today and all week. I appreciate that as well. We're going to sign off now. So thank you.